then Norbert Mikelic was third this morning. Rob Huff was fourth, and that's the order they'll be released from the pre-grid in. So 2 rows, and it goes 1 car per row per time, and then they make their way out on circuit. So the order of the times in FP1 is how they're going to be released for FP2. In terms of a championship, of course, although this is the Guia race, it is the final Kumho TCR World Tour event of the year, event of Macau, and Jan Erlaché and Rob Huff coming here tied on points with Norbert Mikelic just 1 point back. So irrespective of 2 fantastic races to look forward to, there's a lot going on in the championship, and you get points in the top 6 in qualifying as well, and qualifying tomorrow is determined over the 2 parts with the top 12 progressing. The World Tour that's sort of grown out of the end of the Touring Car World Cup, and it's been a series that's gone from Europe to South America to Australasia and then here to the Far East, and has enticed locals to take part when it comes to their doorstep, just as it is doing this weekend as well. Rob Huff, who can almost count Macau as a home circuit, such as the success rate here, although he lives back in the UK now, but it's very much his domain, this place. He's got to start as one of the favourites for at least 1 win, and that will help him for a championship, no doubt. But the Audi that he drives was 4th quickest in the earlier session. Rob Huff, world champion, and Seat UK champion, which is how he got a touring car drive, because the prize was to go into the BTCC in 2004 as teammate to Jason Plato, and then Rob's career snowballed, and world champion in 2012. He's won the Scandinavian Championship as well. Fred Verviche, who's a star in GT cars as well as in touring cars, gets set to go. And there also Santiago Urrutia, who came from Euro F3 Open and GP3 into Star Mazda and Indy Lights, all in America before going into TCR in Europe and then the World Tour this year. Jan Erlaché, you're on board with, whose uncle Ivan Muller was always a bit of a gun around here and every touring car circuit. And his mum was 5th in the Macau Grand Prix, the first year Formula 3 came to town, 1983.
That's not bad, is it? 5th?
It's all right, isn't it? Kathy Muller, his mum, who's a very, very good racing driver, raced at Le Mans as well. So it's certainly in the genes as the green flag is shown, and FP2 is underway. It's half an hour once more. And the cars venturing out onto the circuit. FP2 underway. Deng Bao Wei's Honda number 33. The top 8 scorers out of the 2 TCR Asia races last week eligible for this if they wish to take up the offer, and a number of them have. So that's why you've got the likes of Lo Se-Ho, who is a very Lo Se-Ho, who's a very quick driver, starting number 1. He'll be one to watch, and it'll be fascinating to pitch him against this opposition.
It's a really interesting little dynamic to what's going on this year for the Macau Guia race, and great to have these world-class touring car drivers, and also joined by unknown in this category drivers over the course of this weekend. However, drivers that have already showed that they are very quick around gear.
I'm chuckling to myself, not so much of the track map, because it's a regular thing. You see drivers have that on the steering wheel. Gabriele Tarquini knows this place well. He walks up the pit lane to go and find a place on the wall to watch. But it's more the size of that track map.
It's a bit big, isn't it?
Yeah, straightforward, print off the timekeeper's website. You're in no doubt as to what the corners are. So if the engineer says there's a yellow at turn 4, you can quickly look, because there are a lot of corners to have to worry about around here.
Yeah, it can get also a little bit vague on this part of the circuit, can't it, to be absolutely exact as to where potentially you might need to report back to pit lane.
Come to you, the Jean-Michel Bart team, which has been running Audis in touring cars and GT racing these last few seasons. And they're the cars then heading up from Police to Moorish, up the hill towards Donna Maria, past the monument. Everybody in the pit lane looking pretty happy about life, even though they've not had a lot of turnaround time between sessions. But maybe tomorrow, when it's qualifying and gets really serious, there'll be a few more race faces on.
I think you're right. This is yeah, quite a prospect this weekend for not only the Macau Guia race, which is the headline feature of TCR cars this weekend here at Macau, but also, of course, the final round of the Kumo TCR World Tour event. And we were talking about it earlier on. It's been some quite glorious circuits over the course of this year, starting at Portimao, going on to Spa, and taking in Bathurst along the way as well, very recently over at Bathurst, and that really has suggested that the championship showdown for the TCR World Tour is going to be a nail-biter as ever it was. In previous years, the World Touring Car Championship was a nail-biter here. Yeah. World TCR was decided here at Macau as well, which always favoured the drivers that went so well here at Macau. Andy Prix, for many, many years, claimed the world title here at Macau. He is a 4-time World Touring Car Champion, and those titles were claimed here at Macau at the end of the season.
If you were Jan Elaché and you were coming to Macau and you were tied on points with any driver, you would not really want it to be Rob Huff, would you?
Don't want it to be Rob Huff, thank you very much indeed, no.
So he's won the Macau Touring Car Cup once. He's won the Guia race how many times now?
9 times, 8 times, I'm not sure.
That's a bit showy off, isn't it?
He's a bit good round here.
He is a bit good round here. And he's always been an absolute master of touring cars, but putting in a historic car as well, whether it's been the family's MGB or any cars out of Richard Mine's stable, the Hong Kong-based driver, he's always impressive. Right, you can see the driver at work here. So riding with Jan Elaché. I always find it fascinating to watch the driver's feet as much as the hands, and that view out of the front is just awesome, isn't it? As you can appreciate now how twisty the track is and how narrow it is.
It really is. Wall on one side, barrier on the other, barrier on one side, wall on the other. It just goes from one to another through the Solitude S's, and of course onto Police and Moorish, and then round Donna Maria up towards the Melco hairpin. It's all so quick. Everything comes quickly around Police up towards Moorish corner, and then Faraway Hill leads them up towards Donna Maria. And it's just such an awesome part of the circuit, this tight and twisty section. Not an overtaking manoeuvre, but it can be sometimes in a touring car. It's quite incredible. Yesterday, you say just how impressive Rob Huff is around the Guia circuit here at Macau. He happened to be in the Grand Prix Museum when I was in the afternoon. People running after him as well.
Really?
Can I have your photograph? Can I have your autograph? I don't know if anyone asked him to pose for a photograph beside his own waxwork. That would have been an unusual and quite unique picture, wouldn't it?
Absolutely right. And yes, I saw him in the paddock yesterday, and again, marshals are coming up for photographs with him.
He's a legend.
And there's a good chance he might be on a British touring car grid next year. He's been in discussions with a couple of teams. We had him in a guest outing at Knock Hill back in the summer, didn't we? And I think Rob, now that he's based back in the UK and he's done all his travelling, he's won his World Championships, he'd be quite happy to come and do 10 weekends of racing in the UK, and it would be good to have him on that grid.
He's made no secret of the fact that he would like to, and apparently, so he said to me a couple of days ago, in discussion with 4 teams at the moment.
Right.
So that's increased, isn't it?
Yeah. Right, you're riding again with the man that's just gone fastest, Norbert Mikulich, 2:29.048. Stands on the squeaky brakes into Lisboa, where you look for the corner between the walls. But now he's found himself in traffic, hasn't he?
And this is not a good place to find traffic because it compromises pretty much the whole of the lap. You can squeeze through. If you've got somebody else that's playing ball and gets neatly out the way and allows you through, then that's fine. But sometimes there isn't the opportunity to allow that.
And that's part of the thing as well. They've got to play ball, haven't they? They've got to be aware of you.
Yeah. Norbert Mikulich has gone purple in the first 2 sectors on this lap. Already top of the times in car 105, 2:29.048, and purple in sectors 1 and 2. Jan Elaché has just gone purple in sector 3, and as ever, it was in free practice 1. We have a number of drivers that could top the times at the end of this free practice, and of course tomorrow it's all about qualifying. They will only be out on circuit just the once.
some would hope to be twice.
Some will hope to be twice.
Because it's Q2, it's one session, but you're right, it's in 2 parts for the top 12. But at the end of that, the top 6 will score points, and therefore going into race 1 even, we could have a slightly different look to the championship. 3 drivers covered by 1 point. That ain't bad.
It's not bad, is it? Eh? It's not bad. All of it comes down to here at Macau. If you don't like Macau and you drive on the world stage in touring cars, it's bad luck really, isn't it? Because it's such an integral, such an important part of the finale of the year to go well at Macau.
And TCR, which I can remember coming to Macau for the first time in 2015, its first season, there was a bit of worry as to how many cars might be on the grid, because it was a new rule set that year.
That's right, yeah.
And it delivered a good grid. And now, if you think about it, we've got the World Tour, TCR China and TCR Asia here over the course of the 2 weekends. That illustrates how successful TCR has been.
A form of touring car racing that has been adopted around the world, hasn't it? Big in Europe, very big in Europe, and over here in this part of the world as well. It's an impressive format, isn't it? Yeah,
and even in the UK, it's been a slow burn, but it has got there. It's kind of found its level as, rather stupidly, I think, it tried to take on the BTCC to begin with, but instead of doing that, just, you know, be an entry level for teams and drivers, and it's gradually found its niche, and it's picked up there as well. We've had a yellow flag out at turn 22, last sector. That's the reason. Who's that's ground to a halt? That is Ben Bargwanna, isn't it? In the Peugeot. And it looks as though the car has ground to a halt with a mechanical problem, because that's not somewhere you'd have a spin, is it?
No, it's just come to a stop, and that is somewhere that you can have a problem, and you'd be surprised if it was someone that has so much experience here at Macau. Marcin Khoa has gone straight on at Lisboa, and that has brought out the red flag.
It has indeed. So with 2 cars to retrieve, it's perhaps inevitable. Now, the clock's ticking, and it did this in the TCR China Macau Touring Car Cup session earlier, but then time was added on. So we'll see what pans out in this. Here comes the replay then. Marcin Khoa up the inside, I think it was of John Filippi, and just understeers, bang, into the tar stack. And John Filippi says, ha, sold you that one.
Understeer is a horrible feeling at any time, and even more horrible when you end up in the tyres on the exits of Lisboa, because it's so... The grandstand at Lisboa, we had a look at it yesterday, it is vast, absolutely vast. When you look up at the actual structure that puts the grandstand together, you realise just how immense it is. So a huge amount of fans and spectators. They watch everything that happens there.
And it's a key part of the circuit, isn't it? It's a great place to be as Rob Huff comes back to the pit lane. In fairness, there aren't a lot of things in Macau that aren't vast. You know, the casinos are big, the statues are big, the colour is big, if that makes sense, the noise is big. There's a firework festival coming up in 3 days' time, or in a few days.
That'll be big.
Yeah. Right, Bargwanna had got to 9th before the Peugeot expired on him. Drivers coming then down through police. And Rob Huff thinking, right, okay. How long are we going to have left? There is the recovery for Marcin Khoa's Lincoln Coat.
Now these cranes are situated at every corner around the Guia circuit. Once again, a reminder, he won't want to be seeing this again and again. It's just that horrible feeling. I'm turning the wheel, the car's going nowhere, I'm going straight on, just getting it wrong.
The move was good in as much as he knew he had to get through the traffic, and he made the pass on the inside, but he just braked too late, and by the time he tried to make the corner, it was just never going to happen. Fred Vervish, hugely experienced Belgian driver, 7th fastest at the moment for Jean-Michel Bart's team. Come to you.
And then the Peugeot still needs to be recovered as well. That's going to be more tricky, because that needs a recovery vehicle to attend. It's not going to be a lift on a crane.
Yeah, the Peugeot, as I say, odd, because it had just got to 9th fastest, and then it looks as though that's a mechanical problem that stopped Bargs Jr.
Yeah.
His father was, for many, many years, one of the leading V8 supercar drivers. Never a champion, but Jason Bargwanna, and it's impossible not to pronounce that in an Australian accent. It's one of those names. Jason Bargwanna was just a very, very quick driver, very likeable, and came back year after year to race in the championship, was always great in the co-driver races. Part, I want to say, with Garth Tander when he started as part of the Holden Young Lions programme. So in the pit lane, the clock is ticking. Jan Erlaché waits to go back out, as does the top driver, Norbert Mikelic. They've only really had 3 flying laps, and 2 flying laps. They've had an out and an in and 2 flying, so they've not had a lot of worthwhile mileage in this, have they?
No, it's true, and we have been saying throughout today, as today has gone on, it's been pretty cool not having session stoppages, because during free practice days here at Macau, it can just rob you of that opportunity to get track time on a very important day. This is a setup day for the whole weekend. The work that's done, the data that's acquired around the circuit is unique, because it's not always a race circuit.
So let's go to the pit lane, because Norbert Mikelic is currently the fastest. Let's hear his thoughts. He's with Paul Jeffrey.
I'm down here on pit road with Norbert Mikelic. Norbert, fastest so far in practice. Is everything? How's the car?
I could not. I can talk. Nevertheless, I can talk.
Norbert can't hear us. How was the car today in practice? Everything okay?
Yeah, this run was with more confidence than FP1. Car feels fine, and it's amazing to be here.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. That's Norbert Mikelic, currently quickest in free practice 2.
Paul, thanks. Norbert Mikelic is fastest by 0.148 of a second from teammate Mikko Ashkona, and then Jan Erlaché third. So the session, as you can see, stopped. The clock ticks. We've gone past halfway, and we await the resumption once the Peugeot of Ben Barguana is off the road. Yes, it's odd, isn't it? It's the undamaged car, but just where it's come to rest, it takes a bit longer to move.
Yeah, it does. And I was saying before, where we heard from pit lane, that the cranes that are around the circuit, strategic places, some corners more than one crane, maybe a longer boom on one, a longer reach, and they can do it very, very quickly if it's on a corner. When it's not on a corner, that's when it becomes slightly more tricky. That we're looking for gaps in the arm cove that can be opened up, and gaps in the barrier to get the cars to a place of safety, but that's going to require a vehicle inevitably, and that takes a little bit longer.
Nestor Girolami's Honda is only to go back out, and more evidence that it was mechanical suggests there that it was a rather incontinent Peugeot, because speedy dry is required.
It is, yeah, so fluid down, and the marshals know exactly what they can do. They can do with it huge swimming pools of oil and water and all sorts that go down. We're going to get the session back underway on short call, and so they're all standing by, alert down in pit lane, and waiting to be invited back onto the circuit to continue this free practice session remaining. The car is being recovered now, the flatbed recovery vehicle making its way back to the paddock, and in the meantime, cars in pit lane, as soon as they get the word, we'll be getting this session back underway.
That's Lo Se-Ho's Hyundai, and also, 18, you were looking at there, the welcome addition to the weekend of Marco Butti. Yan Trang's Lincoln Co, and the 15, the Civic Nestor Girolami. And then who else do we have further back? Paul Poon, another of the local drivers for the weekend.
Very successful driver here at Macau as well.
Yeah.
Multiple race wins over the years in various categories around the Macau Grand Prix. Big character in the area as well, is Paul Poon. Green flag, we're back underway. 13.5 minutes of this free practice session for the Macau Gear Race, the Kumo TCR World Tour events of Macau. And what have they got to do now? Get the cars back up to where they were before the red flag came out. That is temperature in tyres, and that's what this lap is all about. So cars leaving pit lane now. Norbert Mikelic is top of the times, car number 105, the time 2:29.048. Compares to a time this morning of a 2:29.037. It's got warmer as the day has gone on. The times are coming down, and a 2:29.048 for Norbert Mikelic is the best lap so far around the Guia circuit during this free practice session. I think it's going to come down even further, isn't it?
Yeah. So 12.5 minutes. So let's say it's going to be around about 9 minutes of proper mileage with a Hyundai that's doing a practice start, which you're allowed to do in the free practice sessions in the box at the end of the pit lane, and away it blasts. And another one with a track map as you go on board Rob Huff's car. Yes. Past the wall, past the barrier, past another stone wall. Just look how relaxed he is inside the car.
He's always got this very relaxed style. Another driver, not blinking much. There's one.
I'm slightly intrigued, and you never know, somebody might offer some of it, but motorsport coffee over his visor. I've never come across motorsport coffee before. That's a great shot.
That's an angle I've not seen before.
Yeah, fantastic, isn't it? You can see the efforts and energies and stresses being put through the suspension components. But motorsport coffee, Rob's sponsor, could do with that at the moment. The other person that they should sponsor is Albert Costa.
That's very true. You're right. Do you know we even have a bean-to-cup vending machine here at Macau? Only in Macau can you have full grinding the beans and making a cup of coffee and finding it out of a vending machine.
I don't believe you. If you'd like to naff off and prove it, that'd be great. Thank you.
I can't prove it because I would need WeChat Pay. I haven't got that.
All right.
I'm afraid. Here's the master, Rob Huff. A glance in the mirror.
And a spin and damage and a red flag because off the road, big shunt for number 6, Li Wangji, out of the session, and you can see the tar marks, second stop, and that's going to take some retrieval. It's a blocked track as well, virtually, isn't it?
I'm afraid it is. There is just enough space to squeeze cars through that are following through, but unfortunately that car, that's going to require quite a recovery, and we are only on the outlap from the resumption of the session, and the clock is going to continue to count down as well, isn't it? So 10.5 minutes just under for the session remains. Michael stays top, Ashkona stays second, El Lachey stays third, Marcin Hua, who ended up down in the tyres at Lisboa, is fourth.
Rob Huff is a part owner of Motorsport Coffee. But
is that right?
More of that, I'm trying to get to the bottom of. Yes. Right, cars coming in, but I don't think this is going to get much time renewed. Do you?
Now, well, what we saw with the China Touring Car Championship was the remaining time, because they were only looking at around a resumption of 4 minutes in the circuit, weren't they? And at the discretion of race control, they were given a few more minutes, so they did go back out over 12 minutes. Whether we have space for this in the regulations for the Kumo TCR World Tour event of Macau, the Macau Guia race, we shall find out. But, climbs out the car now, does Li Wangji, and the car is going nowhere. So he closes the door, walks away, slightly disappointed, not surprisingly, that the car is in a pretty sorry state really after that, into the barrier, and just stands by and leans on the barrier, and the recovery vehicle already in place to get that car up in the air on the back of the truck and back into the paddock area. So a chance to see the cars a little bit closer now, down in pit lane once again. Good look at Rob Huff's car. Number 179. The former World Touring Car Champion is Rob. And probably definitely the only driver on the current grid that has his own Madame Tussauds waxwork in the Grand Prix Museum here at Macau. Chance to get some rubber on these cars down in pit lane, and also for the engineers to examine the power plant and look underneath the bonnet of the car, make sure everything's ready for the restart, which now would be over 7.5 minutes if they restarted now.
And there's just about the width for Li Wengji's car. Let's go back to the pit lane. Frederic Verbiest of Comtieu is with Paul.
Francois, we're currently under red flag conditions in FP2. How's the session for Comtieu Audi Sport?
Yeah, for sure. It's never easy. We like to run as much class as possible, but we were kind of checking the car. Maybe we make some change from FP1 to FP2, but we didn't make any lap yet. So difficult to say, but just talk with the driver. Looks okay so far. So we just need to put the lap together and see what happened. But we're just waiting to have a clean track and see where we are.
Not much time left in the session. Do you think you're going to get any meaningful running before we go for checker?
Yeah, we never know. We can see in the earlier session that they extend the session. So let's see. It's really difficult to say, but we were hoping that to do the lap in the end of the session because we still have to do a few checks at earlier. But we're just waiting. Let's see what happens.
Francois, thank you very much. Back to the commentators.
Session will not be resumed, so that is the end of the session. Therefore, it's going to be Norbert Michelisz who is the fastest at the end of a frustrating session, bitty, and not many laps being able to be put in as a rhythm.
Unlike the previous one, which was clean, neat, tidy, and unfortunately this one, you're right, not able to get into a rhythm at any point really, and that's it. That's it for free practice for those cars for the Macau Guia race. They will be into qualifying tomorrow in 2 segments of qualifying, and unfortunately not making the most of free practice 2 as a result of 2 incidents requiring 2 red flags. So that means that Norbert Michelisz goes top, 2:29.048 for the end of free practice 2.
And we saw Ben Bolgana's Peugeot stop. Teddy Claret built the car. What can you tell us about its demise?
Teddy, just before the red flag, we saw some drama for Ben stopping on circuit. Hello. Hello. What's the problem with the car?
We don't have many information for the moment, but it seems we have an issue with water temperature. So we tell him to stop the car. He didn't touch any wall or some things, but we don't want to have a problem with an engine. We don't know the problem yet, so we prefer to stop on track.
Fantastic, Teddy. Hopefully everything's sorted and we can see you in qualifying. Thank you. Back to the commentating team.
And that was Jason Barguana that you saw rushing in for his moment of glory. But you can't keep a good man down. So yeah, sensible, stop it rather than risk it. Right then, at the end of FP2, Norbert Michelisz tops the times by 1/10 of a second, just over from Michael Ashkuna and Jan Elaché third. Marshwing Ha, even though he was in the wall and caused a stoppage, fourth from Santiago Urrutia and Ted Björk. Fred Verbiest, seventh from John Filippi, Ben Barguana and Marco Butti going well 10th. Lo Si Hay was 11th ahead of Nestor Girolami, then Rob Huff ahead of the now rather crumpled Hyundai of Li Wengji. Yan Chang was ahead of Paul Poon, and Deng Bao Wei was ahead of Tian K. So they will qualify tomorrow, the one session in a 30-minute and a 15-minute Q1, Q2 format. Next will be the first qualifying session of the weekend, and that's going to be for Formula 3, and then the GT Cup rounds out day 1 of this 70th anniversary weekend. A frustrating session, some drivers not even getting a proper lap time in, but Norbert Michelisz ends FP2 the fastest. And it's been a pretty good day thus far for the Hyundais. And that session I don't think you can read a great deal into, but it certainly had its dramatic moments, as now in the paddock everyone's getting ready for the activity that's to come. Teams putting the cars to bed for the night. And fastest, as I say, Norbert Michelisz. So we look forward to qualifying. Points at stake for the top 6 tomorrow here at Macau.